Okay, this is part 2 of making of the train body for Project 215 Model Miniature Train. And we're going to continue where we left off with creating our train features. So in order to go through and continue this, I'm going to create a sketch, making sure if you happen to finish this, make sure your component is still active on the train body, so noted by the radio button that is highlighted. And I'm going to create a new sketch and I'm going to click the side of the train. Going under create, in the last video we ended out with creating points, so I'm going to use points, and I'm going to set 2 points, which is going to act as our axle holes. Very similar to what we had, I'm going to do a horizontal vertical constraint. I'm going to horizontally constrain the 2 points that I just set in together. Then, running my dimensions, these will be set at 0.5. So vertically, from the back edge of the train to the first one will be a distance of 1 inch, and then from the back of the train to the front point will be 4.5. These are fully constrained. I can finish the sketch. I'm going to run the whole command, selecting those 2 points. This one here, I need to keep the hole type as far as no seat, but under the hole tap type, I need to choose the third option here, which is called a tapped hole. So tapped hole meaning that it has threads, and the threads that they've noted under the designation, we need to know how deep that this hole is going to run. Here, 0.875. We are going to keep the drill angle, and then in order to set the diameter, I do have to scroll down in this menu, and under the size, I'm going to click, and I'm going to find 0.25, which is the first option past the numbered choices with the parentheses. 0.25, we see the 1/420 UNC thread designation as being noted. I'm going to check this little box under the bottom to make it modeled, and then I'm going to go ahead and say OK. So there will be now our holes modeled with the threads. Otherwise, if it's not modeled, it just puts a little image of threads on the hole. But here we actually go through and get actual threads cut into the hole. To do the other side, I'm going to do a little bit of a trick. So I'm going to go under create, and I'm going to use the mirror command. And the mirror command, I want to choose under the type, I want to select features. And from my browser, I'm going to choose the last hole command, which once I select the icon, highlights in blue, it also highlights in the model. And then I want to hit the select on next to mirror plane. And what I can do here is I can actually choose the YZ plane, which is this one that's running backwards. So when I click it, you're going to see on the other side, it's going to show you a preview of the mirror of those axle holes being put in on the other side. If I say OK, then you will see those axle holes are patterned over on the other side without having to repeat the same steps that we did before. While we're on the side of the train, create a new sketch. And here we're going to go ahead and cut out. I'm going to draw a circle, like so. Taking my line tool, I'm going to click when I'm on the edge of the circle, when I'm touching the outside edge of the circle, I'm going to take a horizontal line back till it meets the back edge of the train from on the top and the bottom of the circle. I do need to utilize the tangent constraint. Just clicking the line, clicking the circle, clicking the bottom line, and clicking the circle. Then I can use my trim command and trim away the inside of that circle. Running the dimension key, I can click the center of the circle, bottom of the train. The height of this will be 1.75. From the center of the circle to the back edge of the train horizontally, this is going to be set at 0.25. And then the radius on our hole is going to be 0.5. Fully constrained, I'm going to finish the sketch, put this in the home position, extrude, selecting the profile, dragging through until I see red. Under distance, I can choose for the extent. Instead of distance, I can choose all, and it will cut all the way through the part. This will cut out the back portion for our train. All right, 2 more things left to do. I'm going to turn around to the back, and I'm going to say create sketch. choosing the back rectangular face on here. Under Create, choosing Point. The point will be somewhere right here in the middle. Again, I'm going to run horizontal vertical, choosing that point, choosing the origin, and then the distance for the hole on the back will be 0.375 from the origin point, much like our arc was from the first video. This will be then a fully constrained point. So now that we've got a vertical distance and we are located as well. Finishing the sketch, I will then go through running the hole command, selecting that point. This hole size will be a diameter. We are going to need to change our settings back. So under the hole tap type, we're going to go simple hole or no threads. So still running with the angle point and still no counterbore or countersink, but our hole depth will be a 0.5 inch, and then the hole diameter will be 0.25, and I will say OK. And there's that hole for the back. In order to do the hole for the top where the stack would be applied, you'll notice if we click Create Sketch, we cannot click on the top of the rounded portion of where the boiler would be for the train. So I'm going to hit Escape. We do need something called a tangent work plane. So we need to set up a work plane. In our Construct panel, we have Tangent Plane. When I select it, it allows me to set a sketch plane, and as I hover over, or if I select a rounded face, it shows me a position for a plane that will be touching the rounded surface, but on the outside edge. So this looks really good if I click on the top portion of the rounded part of the train body. I can go ahead and say OK. Now this gives me a place when I create the sketch. I want to choose the work plane and gives me a spot to put some sketch geometry. Under the Create panel, I'm going to choose Point, and I'm going to end up going, so from the front edge of my train, I'm going to click right about here. I don't want to click on the origin, otherwise it's going to constrain it. But I can go ahead and use horizontal vertical, clicking that point, clicking the origin, so that way those will be aligned vertically. Dimensioning from the front edge of the train to the point will be 0.875. And there will be a fully constrained portion. Using the hole command, choosing that point that I set, this one here is going to be very similar, except for the depth is going to be 0.25 and the diameter is going to be 0.5. And I'm going to go ahead and say OK. So this goes through and finishes out a lot of the hole features. There is a note on here noting that we're going to round all edges to a radius of 0.1 except for the drilled holes. So this means I'm going to use the Fillet command, and I need to select the different edges on the part. Since this is a child's toy, we would need to do that. So I'm going to, anywhere I see a highlight on the edges, I need to select those lines. Again, I'm not selecting faces as much as I'm selecting the edges that show up. Even right here in the edges that where the circular edge comes down, we're going to do that. So by the end of this, by the time I select all the edges for the part, you'll see it's counting how many edges you are selecting in the Fillet command menu. And with that, I should have 34 edges. If you do not, that means you are missing an edge, and you need to go back and find which one you are missing. So I'm going to rotate around until I can go through and find all of my edges. Okay, right now I'm sitting at 33 edges, so it looks like I am missing this one right down here. So 34 edges in total, which should have every edge other than, again, we do not want to hit the edges around the holes. So we are going to go through and choose to have that to be a 0.01. And then what you will see with those particular, and when I say OK, usually it will show you a preview. or I'm sorry, that was a 0.1. So let me go back and edit the feature. So that was on another drawing. So let me go 0.1. There we go. So 0.1 will go through and be the one that finishes out. And those are the rounded edges that you will see for your train part. So now the final train body is taken care of, and we can move on to do some editing or model other parts.